All right, guys, OFC Nations Cup time. So look, no disrespect to these teams, but we should be like Miles Jacobson better than them. We are so much better than them. And you've shown great improvement last couple of windows. We're winning games with the Gegenpress. It's working well. So if you guys can just handle this, should be no issues. Win a trophy. And while you do that, I'm just going to focus on doing some transfers for Auckland because it's kind of juggling stuff at the moment. So that sound good?
Well, boss, isn't there a conflict of interest?
I mean, it sounds like it is, but I'm trying to sign players for Auckland who can replace the bad players in New Zealand, which is not you guys, don't worry, but just, I'm just trying to improve the overall nation for the greater good.
I suppose you're right. For the greater good.
Exactly, see? For the greater good. For the greater good. For the greater good. Come on. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 11 of the New Zealand Builder Nation here on Shaun Does FM with both AFC Auckland and the A-League, and today we focus on the international level with the All Whites going to play the semi-final and the final of the OFC Nations Cup, because I don't think I'm going to get my way through the transfer window before I need to record this episode, so hopefully that's okay with you guys. We can see what the other teams in Oceania do look like at the start of the save, and probably why we won't show you too much more of these teams, because to be fair, these are teams that we should be fresh into. If you're looking forward to a bit of international football in today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated, as my voice just broke there like a college-aged kid. But coming up today, it is the finals of the OFC Nations Cup. This is off the back of the end of our first season in the A-League with AFC Auckland at the end of last week. If you missed that last episode, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. As you can see there with the league table, unfortunately couldn't quite get the job done. Still waiting to see if we do get some continental Asian football for this upcoming season. It's one of the reasons I'm just holding off on some transfer stuff, because it might mean I need to sign some interesting players for that in terms of squad registration. So coming up today, we are doing this OFC Nations Cup, and we'll come back tomorrow and get stuck into the transfers and the second season of life with AFC Auckland. But before then, we're going to try and win the OFC Nations Cup with New Zealand, and to be fair, this should be pretty easy work for the All Whites. We've already gone through the group phase of this tournament. We'll just go over to the competition tab. That won't work because I'm on the wrong one. I should be on the national team. We'll make our way over there. There you can see the other semi-final is between Tahiti and Fiji. We're going to take on Papua New Guinea in this first semi, but in terms of the group phase of that second round, we went through undefeated, as you would expect. Surprisingly, the Solomon Islands, including Rafael, finished bottom of the group. I would have thought they would have been our toughest test there in Group B, but to be fair, in the first game that we played, where we beat them 3-0, their star player did get injured in Rafael, so that is probably a reason that the Solomon Islands did struggle. He went off at the 18-minute mark. All the games we played in the group phase were at Sky Stadium, so it was home advantage for us. 2 penalties in the first half, which Sarpreet Singh did put away, and then Joe Bell scored one pretty soon after to go off to a hot start, and from there just sat on our lead, even though I actually got our guys to play attacking instead of positive. Didn't work too well. We started off there with a 3-0 win, which really that injury crushed the hopes of the Solomon Islands. They went on to not win a single game, and off the back of that, 2 pretty convincing 3-1 wins over New Caledonia. Goals there to Elijah Just, Nico Kerwin and Lucas Cully-Hill. To be fair, rotated our team quite a bit for that game, and a little bit as well for the Tahiti one. We also won 3-1 thanks to goals to Garbett and 2 penalties to Ryan Thomas. These Oceania nations do give away quite a few penalties. I am noticing, we'll see if that continues during the course of today's episode, but hopefully we will make the final. Otherwise, that will be a bit of a disaster. But you can see there, 3-1 win over Tahiti. They are one of the teams that we could play in the final. In the other group, that was won by Fiji. Papua New Guinea finishing second, Vanuatu third, and Tonga fourth. Those results do mean that both Tonga and the Solomon Islands will not be taking part in the World Cup qualifying tournament, which does start later this year in games. So it's a big blow there for the Solomon Islands with that injury to Rafael Le'e. It does mean they will not even get a chance to bounce back and try and qualify for the World Cup. They are already done after finishing bottom of that group. But it's time to get stuck in to our first game today. We take on Papua New Guinea in the semi-finals. They are ranked all the way down in 154, so this is definitely a team like all the ones in Oceania that we should be beating fairly comfortably. Of all the players they have in their team, the one who might be most recognisable to football fans from New Zealand, Tommy Semi, also maybe some fans of the channel who caught the Hexagon Challenge back when we led Hamilton Wanderers to OFC Champions League glory. He was one of the players on our books back then, but these days is playing in this save for Altona Magic. They are a team over in the Victorian NPL, one of the divisions in below of the second tier of Australian football. So it'll be interesting to see how the former Hamilton Wanderers man does get on here against us for P&G, but to be fair, he's the only player I recognise in that lineup. This should be a game we can win fairly comfortably, but for some reason, the finals of this competition are being played over in Australia, even though Australia play in the Asian Confederation, not in Oceania. It does seem a little bit funny, but it does mean that we can do a bus trip because the finals are being played at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. So of course we have done a bus trip in Melbourne before to get to Amy Park, where usually the Victory, Melbourne City and also Western United play. Different ground this time, but to be fair, quite a similar journey because all the grounds in Melbourne Central are quite close to each other. Last time I think we stayed here at the Langham Melbourne around South Bank and walked our way around about the Royal Botanic Gardens. We'll be doing the same thing here today, so it does mean quite a short bus trip. Just going to show you guys in between Amy Park and the Melbourne Cricket Ground. And to be fair, all you really do is walk through part of Rod Laver Arena and Gillette. So I think the only bit of the bus trip we need to do for today's episode is actually have a look at the stadium itself, albeit it's a very famous stadium, absolute beauty there in Melbourne. And quite a few images from outside the stadium that we can look at. First up here, a statue of Bill Ponsford, cricket player. Lots of those, with obviously this being the Melbourne Cricket Ground. But there you can see that is the first statue that we see coming up to the main entrance, just coming off of the back of a couple of the walkways that do make their way to the MCG. We'll just try and find our way a bit further around the MCG, where there are a couple more things that we can look at. So we're going around a bit further now to the right hand side of where we started off, and we have found the Demon Shop. This is for the Melbourne Demons, who are an AFL team. This is on the side of the road, but is another entrance to the MCG. Of course, as well as cricket, also hosts quite a bit of Australian football. Going around to the right a bit further, and to be fair, I think this would be closer to the main entrance than what I said before with the previous statue, but this one's the big one. Sir Donald Bradman, arguably the best cricketer of all time. He's got a statue there outside of the MCG. I'll just see if we can find anything else here around the edge of the ground once I stop clicking on things without meaning to. And still making our way around the outside of the MCG, and next up is the entrance for the National Sports Museum, something else that is inside of the MCG. And to be fair, from memory, been a little while since I've been there, but not a bad visit at all. Lots of cool stuff in there. And going around a bit further, quite close to where we started off with all the entrances and statues, this is the entry for the MCC Museum, the Cricket Club Museum there for Melbourne. So that is probably what you want to have a look at if you are more of a cricket fan, but I think that's about all we can look at here on the outside of the MCG. In fact, no, it isn't, because there is a statue, if I can click on it, of Dennis Lillee. Can we find it? Where is it? It should be somewhere near here. And there it is right there. There's the statue of Dennis Lillee, one of the better fast bowlers in the history of cricket as well. Just don't tell the Aussies I'm saying all this nice stuff about their cricket team, as they can sometimes be a right pack of spoiled brats. But I think that's the tour of the outside of the MCG. Now time to look at the inside, and this is a pretty good view of what it does look like at night time off the back of a game of cricket. As you can see there, I think they're about to interview some of the Australian players in the post-match looks like after playing Pakistan. But here's what the MCG does look like on the inside. It is a massive sporting theatre, brilliant ground. And going to the centre of the ground, here's actually a view of it when it is in AFL mode. There you can see the funny bouncy centre circle thing with the Toyota logo. And here is the ground from smack bang the middle when it is set up for AFL, which is a bit more of a rounder shape than a football ground. But there is a tour of the MCG. Not really sure still why we're playing the OFC Nations Cup here in Australia, but it's a nice ground. We'll make the most of it and hopefully get the job done against Papua New Guinea and make our way through to the final. And here are the team sheets for the first game of today's episode. We are going with our best 11 that I can pick at the moment. Just one change though. Kelly Hill comes in for Tui Loma, not quite on a full green hat because he played in that most recent outing where we did beat Tahiti. There are PNG going with a 4-4-2. And hopefully we can get the job done and make that final. And it hasn't taken long at all here for the first highlight of this game. It could be quite a busy episode in terms of highlights if things do go well. A little bit of a poor pass there, but thankfully Joe Bell does recover nicely. As I said when we did the first episode of the save, defensive midfield, one of our stronger areas. That's actually one of the reasons we are using the 4-2-3-1 here. Also with players like Sarpreet Singh and Ryan Thomas who can play further forward. Bit of a poor giveaway from us earlier, but thankfully we do eventually tidy things up at the back there through Alex Paulson. Of course, the next time you see him will be his first appearance in an AFC Auckland shirt. Interesting to see that so far in this tournament, Giancarlo Italiano, the Wellington Phoenix manager, has been watching the games, keeping an eye on Alex Paulson, even though he's not playing for them next season, which is a bit funny, but early chance here. Kerwin floats this one far post, and Callum McCowart will bang that one home. To be fair, that's quite a good header into the top left corner. It's a brilliant start, and hopefully we can kick on from here and put a bit of a hurting here on PNG, who are in the red, of course, with us being the All Whites. We are in the All White, but that's a good finish there from Callum McCowart, who give us an early 1-0 lead. And 10 minutes off the back of that opening highlight, now it's a throw-in for us here, albeit it is cleared away there from PNG. And yet again, not good work there from Kakache with that header, but thankfully Joe Bell does recover that, albeit he has picked up a yellow card, so he'll probably come off at halftime, especially if we can grab an early buffer lead, which we do. Matthew Garbutt this time from the assist from Callum McCowart, returning the favour somewhat off the back of that first goal, albeit was assisted by Nico Kerwin. But Matthew Garbutt, kind of like my Will Jordan, the All Blacks so far, he just always scores goals. His strike rate so far has been ridiculous for me. He scores another and makes it 2-0, just shy of the 15-minute mark here in the semi-final of the OFC Nations Cup. Now it's another highlight here, a free kick, but this time PNG somewhat deal with the danger, albeit Chris Wood will tidy things up. What can the Hamilton man do? Plays it back, and now it's McCowart who is back on the ball down that left-hand side. Now just outside the box, plays that one back to Marko Stamanic. Starts to cut inside now. Bell in space. He'll find Matty Garbutt, who will beat the Apole at his near post. That makes it 3-0. And already this is looking a little bit easier than we were doing things in the group stage, maybe because I was rotating the team just a little bit as players were coming back from the end of their club season. But this has been a very good early display. Hopefully have put the game to bed already. 3-0 up after only 15 minutes. And in fact, very short left back of that third goal. Now a corner here in our favour, going far post there for Kelly Hill. He tries to score his second goal for the All Whites, but unfortunately that one, it comes off the post. Now PNG here might have a chance on the counter. It gets snuffed out by Libby, and we are well on top, 3-0 ahead. And going forward a little bit off the back of that previous highlight, now about halfway through the first half, we have a throw in here, but deep inside of our own half. We have just switched around here, Stamanic with Joe Bell, so we can get Joe Bell to ease off tackles just to make sure we don't go down to 10 men or anything silly like that, seeing as that other midfielder on the right-hand side does play as a ball winner. We're going to move Joe Bell here to a deep line playmaker for the rest of this first half, but thankfully just doing enough there to keep the ball. Young Tyler Binden at centre-back. Our two centre-backs today are the very promising ones who could form a long-term centre-back partnership in the save, but we are still on the attack here. Kache with an interesting deflected pass there, and apparently a penalty, which looked very, very soft, but are being given quite frequently in this OFC Nations Cup. For some reason, Sarpreet Singh instead of Matty Garbutt, who was on a hat-trick, but Sarpreet Singh so far has been good from the penalty spot in this tournament. We'll put that one away, even though Pole did go the right way. That makes it 4-0, and yeah, that should be game over. It is fair to say, absolutely romping home in the semi at the MCG as we take a 4-0 lead. And now when they're a couple of minutes shy of half-time, next highlight in this game that's worth showing you guys, because we won it earlier, but it wasn't up to too much. But yet again, we are on the attack here. Chris Wood plays that one back to Marko Stamanic, of course, these days in that balling midfield role. Fizzes that one into the mixer. Sarpreet Singh goes down. It's another penalty. Didn't look too obvious. Yet again, they're being given away quite easily, as I said before. But Sarpreet Singh now with a chance to make himself also get on a hat-trick. He does, to be fair. He earned that penalty, so probably deserved to try and put that one away. There's 3 minutes coming up of added time, and PNG probably want to take one of our jerseys and wave the white flag. It's 5-0 before half-time. This could get very, very ugly. And there's one more highlight here before we do head into the sheds. Bindon to Bell now. Stamanic started to make his way forward. Eventually, Chris Wood on the ball so far hasn't scored, which is surprising, but now Nico Kerwin on the ball. Tight angle. Speak of the devil, Chris Wood will score our last goal, you'd imagine, of the first half. Gets on the score sheet and makes it 6-0. This is an absolute hammering, and so far, you could argue our best performance with the All Whites, albeit quality of opposition might be impacting that a little bit. Of course, we did draw off Paraguay early on in the save. Based on world rankings, that was quite a good result. But here, we will be making our way through to the OFC Nations Cup final. I think it is near on a lock, even though it's only half-time, as we have a 6-0 lead. I think here at half-time, as I said, we'll play things safe and take off Joe Bell. And coming on for him, we might bring on our young bolter that we did select for this tournament in Mali Luluai, and also just check in on some other players who could use a rest before we do get stuck in to the final, just to make sure they are all fresh in case someone like Tahiti or Fiji give us a fright. But Luluai will come on for Joe Bell. Also, Stamanic on a bit of a deep yellow heart, so maybe taking him off would not be the worst idea. So I think that Clayton Lewis will come on in the DLP role, the man from Macarthur FC, and also Chris Wood will give him a rest, bring on the Wayne train and see if he can score a goal. But those will be our subs at half-time. This game well under control as we're 6-0 in front. And it's taken a little while here at the first bit of action in the second half, but it is a throw in here in our favour. And Kelly Hill gets a shove in the back, and this will give Sarpreet Singh the chance to make it a hat-trick from the penalty spot. He sends Pole the wrong way. It's the easiest hat-trick you will ever see. But yeah, he'll take it. Probably should have been Matty Garbett, who was already on a hat-trick before the first penalty got given. But Sarpreet Singh, he knew what was happening. He makes it 3 penalties, and we go 7-0 up. Was just thinking about taking him off the back of doing that, because he's actually been in quite good form in this tournament. But now a highlight, and PNG are on the ball for one of the rare times we have seen so far in this game, and are in behind. They try and put that one far post. Do get a hit on the end of it, but that's a very easy save there for the soon-to-be AFC Auckland man in Alex Paulson. Rolls it out to Bindon, and maybe this highlight might actually be in our favour as we now get on the attack. Kerwin finds Singh off the back of grabbing that hat-trick from the spot. Back out to Kerwin now down that right-hand side. He is having a very good game. Puts that one far post for McCowart. Running backwards now, Singh inside the box. Takes a touch this time. We'll put it away from open play. He scores his 4th goal of the game. Definitely off the back of that. We'll take him off. He's in very good form. But that's now 8-0 with still a half hour left in this game. This could be some absolute thrashing here. Might be American Samoa levels, like the movie that came out recently, which Taika Waititi directed. But that is a good performance from Sarpreet Singh. 4 goals, albeit lots of them were from the penalty spot. But off the back of that, we'll take him off. Now, I think here, Ryan Thomas would usually come on, but is on quite a deep yellow heart. So Elijah just can come on in that cam role. And also just checking who else might be worth taking off at this stage. We might save that last sub up for whoever gets tired earliest. Off the back of us going 8-0 up. And we are about to finish up this game. Not much happened off the back of that Sarpreet Singh sub. Just past the hour mark, we did eventually take off Tyler Bindon for Francis de Vries with about 20 minutes to go just to make sure that he was fit for the final. But that was an absolute thrashing. And to be fair, we didn't do a lot that was worth showing you guys in the last half hour. If we kept someone like Sarpreet Singh on, that could have been a whole lot worse. But that so far, probably our best performance with the All Whites here in the save, albeit, as I said, it was against PNG. So take it with a pinch of salt, but that was an absolute thrashing. We'll definitely be in the OFC Nations Cup final. We'll come back shortly and play it against one of Tahiti or Fiji. And here are the team sheets for this OFC Nations Cup final. We've just made one change. Tuiloma coming back in for Kelly Hill, but apart from that, this is actually our first choice 11, and we take on Tahiti, who we bet 3-1 in the group stage. They bet Fiji 3-1 in the semi-final. So as I suggested before this tournament started, our group was actually stronger than the other one, and hopefully we can repeat the dose and lift our first piece of silverware in this save, even though it's one you'd expect us to do every single time we play this competition in this save, especially once we get nation building properly and start to get some imports who eventually do become New Zealanders. But some poor link-up play early, and Tahiti in the mostly red with the white sleeves, they are on the ball. But hopefully we can thump these guys just like we did in the group phase back when it was at Sky Stadium. Now there's Stamanic, tries to get a foot in there. It falls to Luis Gitton with a stunning strike. Lots of help there from the post, but still, that's an absolute worldie. His first goal for Tahiti, and what a time to do it. We are 1-0 down in the OFC Nations Cup final. Nothing to panic about just yet, but this is a stunning strike. Nothing Paulson can do about that one. Absolute worldie. And we go 1-0 down in the final. Albeit only a few minutes off the back of that, now we're down the other end for a corner of our own, and Stamanic gets his head on the end of that one, but good save there from the Tahiti goalkeeper, and we are still 1-0 behind. And now up to the 10-minute mark, and we are back down the other end, but this time it's a free kick to Tahiti. Libby Kakache there, interesting header clear when it looked like he had lots of space. Does another one, it actually sends it out to a Tahiti player, starts to cut inside, beats Alex Paulson. Frank Papaura puts Tahiti 2-0 up in the OFC Nations Cup final, which I was not expecting because they're not very good. We'll demand more. This has been a dreadful start from us in this game, albeit that first goal I can understand, but some weird defending there from Libby Kache of all players, probably our second best player in the entire team, in behind Chris Wood. This could be an upset if we don't get our butt into gear. We're 2-0 behind. And very shortly off the back of that second goal to Tahiti, another free kick for them. This has been a dreadful start for us in this game. Callum McCowart's also picked up a yellow card. Thankfully, he heads that one away, but so far we're defending pretty averagely. They find some space there on their left-hand side. Thankfully, that one comes off the post, but this is starting to get a bit worrying as we're still 2-0 behind. And we're now made our way forward to the half-hour mark, and again, Tahiti here on the attack, albeit Kerwin gets a bit of a foot in there, and thankfully Stamanic can try and get us on the counter-attack. Garbutt's also picked up a yellow card alongside McCowart, so might be changes coming up at half-time down both wings. We float that one far post, and finally we score a goal. It's Callum McCowart who scores it off the back of a Sarpreet Singh assist. He's having one heck of a tournament, but finally we start to mount our comeback here in this OFC Nations Cup final off the back of somehow going 2-0 down. It's a header into the ground. It beats the Tahiti goalkeeper, and we're back in this one, only one goal behind now. And a little bit surprisingly, it looks like that will be our only goal of the first half. We are still behind at half-time. Certainly got our act into gear in the latter part of that first half, but we're 2-1 behind in the OFC Nations Cup final. We will give our boys a right serve here at half-time and also take off Matty Garbutt on a 6.4. I think we'll bring on Ryan Thomas, and Sarpreet Singh can go out the right wing, where he's actually probably our second best option in this team. Actually, probably the first, but Matty Garbutt so far has been pretty good for us in the save. But time to give the boys a spray, and hopefully they can actually win this thing. And 10 minutes into the second half, the first highlight here is a corner in our favour. Might take us being set piece FC here to turn this around a corner. Lots going on there inside the box off the back of that Wood header. And there was a trip there on Chris Wood. It's another penalty. I'm quite thankful for this one. And Ryan Thomas will actually take the penalties this time instead of Sarpreet Singh. He puts it away. and we have squared things up. It's taken until the 55th minute, which is a bit embarrassing. Just like that celebration from Thomas when it's 2-2 against Tahiti. Pull your head in, mate. But thankfully, all square with 35 minutes left. And while we're here, Callum McCowart, one of the goal scorers, is down to a red card. So we'll bring on for him Elijah Just. And in fact, before that substitution can take place, a highlight does start here and we find Chris Wood on the ball down the right-hand side. Plays that for Saarpreet Singh, who eventually does go after the ball, squares it, but it's blocked there by a Tahiti player. Now Kakache this time finds Bell. Now Ryan Thomas plays a nice through ball there to Chris Wood. He's had a really good impact on the game already. A penalty put away, now an assist. This time we can celebrate because we're finally beating Tahiti. Massive scalp for us here, but thankfully we have turned this around off the back of our awful start. Good finish there from big Chris Wood off the back of that ball played for from Ryan Thomas. That will make it 3-2. And off the back of that now, Joe Bell also down to a red card, but I think we've only got one more stoppage left. We might just save things up until more players go down to a red card. Off the back of us going 3-2 in front. Another highlight here at the 62-minute mark, and Joe Bell does win that ball for us. Now Chris Wood off the back of scoring a goal. The captain, thankfully, might actually help us win this tournament. That would be a bit embarrassing if we didn't. That would have been pretty dodgy. Wouldn't have been too great for our start here with the All Whites, but we are now back on the attack. Kerwin makes his way inside the box. Good chance, but just blast that one wide, albeit I thought there it was saved. Apparently it wasn't, and now it's a corner yet again in our favour. Now Marco Stumnick's also down to a red card, so might be some midfield changes coming up, but Singh is on the ball, plays that back to Joe Bell, floats this one far post looking for Stamanic, doesn't quite find him, but now Kerwin has the ball just inside the box, squeeze that one nicely, looking for someone, doesn't find them, and now Tahiti actually get a chance to do something here on the counter-attack. It's a decent chance too, but thankfully Paulson comes out to claim that, albeit Stamanic with an average header away, and Tahiti are back on the attack somewhat. They play that back to a defender, ball over the top. Bindon heads it away, a little bit iffy there. Interesting highlight. Paulson will take that, throws it out. That's the end of that weird highlight. It's still 3-2, and off the back of that, we've actually got 2 stoppages left. Of course, some of those subs we made were at half time, so we'll make some subs. In the DM roles will be Lewis or Stamanic, and we'll bring on Cully Heald in place of Joe Bell, so it will mean that Tui Loma can go forward into that DM role for these last 25 minutes as we look to build on this 1-goal advantage. And only a couple of minutes off the back of that previous sub, now it's time for our last one because Tyler Bindon has gone down to a red heart. Coming on for him, Francis de Vries, as we try and hold on to our narrow lead against Tahiti. And shortly off the back of that final substitution, there is a throw-in for us here inside of the opposition half, albeit poor pass forward there, in Tahiti do get a chance to do something on the counter-attack. They score one more goal. This is well and truly game on. They try and play a ball over the top there. Thankfully, Paulson does come out to claim that and plays it forward to Nico Kua. Now Ryan Thomas, lovely ball over the top there for Chris Wood, who does get in behind, but that is a very good save from the Tahiti goalkeeper, somewhat keeping them in this game, and it is still only 3-2 against Tahiti, which is still a little bit embarrassing. Good chance there for Wood from the corner, but that one just off target, and it's still 3-2. And only a couple of minutes on from that previous chance to Chris Wood, that double chance with that corner included. Now it is a goal kick. Thankfully, we do win the ball back. Nico Kua plays that forward to Saarpreet Singh, but loose touch, and Tahiti do get a chance to clear the lines, but thankfully, De Vries, some fresh legs at the back. He can tidy that one up these days alongside Lucas Cully Heald of the Knicks. Now, nice ball over the top there for Elijah Just. Probably goes the wrong side there and also misses the target. And we are still only 3-2 in front despite those stats, which are well and truly in our favour. Now, we'll be 2-0 behind in this game. We make it 4-2. Ryan Thomas, he picks up a double. Some good work there from some of our bench players. Clayton Lewis with the assist, the MacArthur FC man. And that should wrap this one up. We make it 4-2 and eventually should be wrapping up the OFC Nations Cup final, albeit it was a lot closer than I expected and a bit interesting, having gone 2-0 behind in the first 10 minutes. And shortly off the back of that 4th goal, yet another highlight, but this time a throw-in deep inside our half. But certainly this performance has not been great, but thankfully still finding a way to get the job done. Hopefully this is the closest it does get when we take on Oceania teams in the tournament coming up, especially once we do get later this year into World Cup qualifying. Interesting pass there out to Chris Wood. Thankfully does get it. Now Tui Loma, he goes down. Thankfully, play continues. Chris Wood is on the ball. He will put that one away. He picks up a double as well. So now quite a few players of ours are on a hat trick. That makes it 5-2. That should be all over Red Rover. And we're going to lift our first bit of silverware here of the save. It's with New Zealand, albeit it's probably a trophy you'd expect us to lift considering the quality of opposition. But it's 5-2, with only a few minutes left. And quite a bit going on here late in this game. Now it's a corner in our favour on the 85-minute mark. Chris Wood at the far post will head that one home. He picks up a hat trick, does our captain. He's turned this into what could have been an infamous night into one of somewhat delight. He picks up a hat trick, 6-2, the scoreline making this look a lot easier than it actually was. As you saw that first 10 minutes, not too sure what happened. Absolute screamer at the start from one of the Tahiti players that will actually be up there for goal of the save, I dare say, even though it wasn't scored by one of our players. And off the back of that, they snuck one past Paulson, and they're going to do it again there through Runiu, who has put that one away off the back of a defensive error there. Both our centre-backs kind of got jumbled up on each other there, trying to clear that one at the back. Cully Heald hit that one straight into De Vries, and then Paulson does get beaten there by the number 9 from Tahiti. So somewhat embarrassingly, I say somewhat, very. We've conceded 3 goals here against Tahiti, which is not ideal, but thankfully we've scored 6. There might be a chance for us here to make it 7 as Elijah Just, he is on the ball, makes his way inside the box, tries to square that one, does get blocked by Tahiti, who, to be fair, are having the game of their lives here, but thankfully we've still found a way to turn this around and beat them. But certainly not a great display, it is fair to say, but thankfully we're just doing enough to pick up the win. Now Kerwin is on the ball down that right-hand side, plays that one back in for Sarpreet Singh. Tui Loma squares that one for Clayton Lewis. Will try and unleash one there. It comes off the post. The goalkeeper makes a little bit of a meal of it. And Elijah Just will get a goal off of the bench, makes it 7-3, which is very, very flattering for the game that this has been. But thankfully our quality has outshone theirs eventually. Elijah Just scores what should be the final goal of this game, makes it a 7-3 scoreline, which is actually a rugby score. Lots of goals at least in today's episode. He was definitely onside. That highlight was a long way out before the goal did get scored, but that's full time. We get our first trophy lift of the save. It's the OFC Nations Cup. Honestly, doesn't mean a great deal considering you'd expect us to win this one. I think the A-League will be quite cool when we get there with AFC Auckland. But off the back of this, with the New Zealand team, our next job is to beat these same teams when we take them on in World Cup qualifying later this year. And also, when we do get into 2025, make sure we make our way to the World Cup for the first time in a long time with the All Whites. But thankfully, off the back of a dreadful start in that one, having gone 2-0 down and being 2-1 down at half-time, we beat Tahiti 7-3 in the OFC Nations Cup final. And I can breathe off the back of that because that was a mental game. Thankfully, got the job done eventually, 7-3 there over Tahiti, but certainly concerned off the back of going 2-0 down early and still being behind 2-1 at halftime. But thankfully, we do lift the OFC Nations Cup and win it for the second time in a row here at New Zealand. To be fair, Tahiti did win it back in 2012. What happened then? And of course, 2020 COVID was a thing. That's why this hasn't been played for a fair while. Thankfully, it's only every 4 years. And to be fair, if we continue to do like we did in that tournament, don't know if we'll show you guys much more of this one, but it fit in quite well today, seeing as I'm smack bang in the middle of a transfer window with AFC Auckland. Thankfully, the fans quite happy with us as we do lift that trophy. Ryan Thomas, some really good bench impact, even though one of those goals, it did come from the penalty spot. And Italiano apparently was there yet again to watch his Wellington Phoenix player, Alex Paulson, who's going to be our player in about 10 days' time when we do come back for tomorrow's episode. Also, while we're here, won't starve you of some AFC Auckland information. There's a big bit of news that's just come through in between the two games in today's episode. I'll try and find it. There it is. Winston Reid is retiring. So we offered him an extension to his contract. He took it. turns out that won't make a difference. He's retiring from professional football. Apparently, the A-League a bit too strong for him at this stage of his career. Don't diss the A-League. Apparently, he will still though like to play some amateur football maybe in the New Zealand National League. But Winston Reid, our captain, won't be here for next season, so that's definitely an area we might need to improve, or definitely will, considering he is our best player at the club. I think it's fair to say, with those really good attributes for that centre-back role, does mean we might be looking for a good import centre-back to replace our previous captain here at AFC Auckland. But that will do it for today's episode. We pick up the OFC Nations Cup off the back of a very interesting final, which finished 7-3 as we beat Tahiti. If you enjoyed today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. We'll come back tomorrow. It will be for the start of the season with AFC Auckland, and also a transfer recap. At the moment, don't have the fixtures for that. I do have the fixtures for our World Cup qualifying tournament. As you can see, it goes on quite a way into 2024/2025, and we take on the two teams that we just beat in the semi-and final of that OFC Nations Cup, PNG and Tahiti. We need to win that group, otherwise won't have a chance to qualify for the World Cup. You'd like to think that should be easy enough for us, and hopefully the other group now does look a little bit weak, as that must include Fiji as well as New Caledonia and Vanuatu. So hopefully if we can win our group, that should be easy peasy into the World Cup. But we'll deal with that when we get to it. We'll come back tomorrow, as I said, and go back to focusing on AFC Auckland and getting stuck into the second season of this save. So until then, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.